Bad news. Exorbitant oil prices, known as the OPEC tax, begot a deep global recession. In an attempt to decrease oil demand, oil-consuming countries introduced conservation, fuel efficiency, and fuel switching. But rising inflation and unemployment did the heavy lifting, and oil demand nosedived from 65.3 million barrels a day in 1979 to 59.8 million barrels a day in 1984. Prices dropped, threatening OPEC's market power. Fertile new oil fields in Alaska, Mexico, Norway, and the North Sea also threatened OPEC's market power. Additionally, with the obsolescence of old concessions, refineries increasingly purchased crude on spot markets, where prices fell below OPEC's. Desperate for cash, OPEC producers like Nigeria and Venezuela sold on spot markets themselves. What was once a seller's market was now a buyer's market. OPEC felt the pressure to finally act as a cartel in the image of the Texas Railroad Commission and the Seven Sisters, to stifle overproduction and sustain adequate prices. In March 1982, OPEC delegated country-level quotas, with an overall limit of 18.5 million barrels a day. Saudi Arabia once again agreed to act as a swing producer as long as her fellow OPEC members respected their quotas. In practice, they generally exceeded their quotas, focusing on short-term profits. Saudi Arabia cut its production, and thus its earnings, to prevent prices from dropping too low. In May 1985, the G7 summit turned into a convention for free market politics, deregulation, privatization, and austerity, spearheaded by leaders like Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher, who exploited the pessimism spawned by the oil crises of the last decade to promulgate their neoliberal aims. In October 1985, Saudi Arabia tired of its role as swing producer and inundated the market with oil. It did so through netbacks, guaranteeing refineries a fixed refining margin no matter how crude prices acted before their sale. Refineries eagerly bought up Saudi Arabian crude. This threw OPEC and non-OPEC producers into a price war. A glut in refined oil by the end of the year crashed oil prices, displaying Saudi Arabia's sustained power over prices. While the price collapse aided U.S. economic recovery after the latest recession, private investment in new American production decelerated. Slumping supply from outside OPEC increased the organization's market share from 29% in 1985 to 37% in 1990. The end of an 8-year war with Iran left Iraq $100 billion in debt. Weak oil prices after the 1986 price collapse and continuing overproduction by Kuwait, the UAE, and other OPEC members prompted Iraqi President Saddam Hussein to invade Kuwait, a land he long claimed, on August 2, 1990. The West immediately prepared to intercede, mainly to protect Saudi Arabia and to prevent Hussein from owning 20% of OPEC's reserves. To cushion the oil market for war, the International Energy Agency released strategic oil stocks for the first time on January 16, 1991. A US-led coalition launched Operation Desert Storm the next day, ultimately ejecting Iraq from Kuwaiti oil fields.